dare great things for Christ. Christ calls us to dare great things. In the marketplace, as well as in the mission field, there has never been a time like the present for the spirit of the Catholic entrepreneur. Now is the time for men and women of great courage and great vision to engage our church and our culture. Now is the time to dare great things. And here is your host as we dare great things, Father Nathan Cromley, the president and founder of the St. John Institute.
They say it's lonely at the top, and they mean it. Anyone who engages in leadership in the footsteps of Christ knows that the labors involved are intense and often overlooked. The fact is, the most important jobs are often the most thankless. Those who engage in leadership have to accept the loneliness of the grind. Lonely, of course, because no one else is there, but not lonely if we know Jesus. In fact, Jesus wants to work with us. Hey everybody, I'm so glad to be back with you again. And I'm just excited to continue this series, right? We're talking about solitude. And we're talking about the solitude of leadership in its many forms. And, of course, that sounds like a big negative, solitude. It means that you're alone, and all of us love other people, and we don't want to be alone. We want to be a part of a community somehow. And so it kind of sounds like a downer. You're like, oh my gosh, how could this, we don't want to listen to this series, But anyone who's leading effectively knows that this is part and parcel of what it means to be a leader. I mean, even a scarecrow is outstanding in his field. That a leader can be like a scarecrow, right? You're outstanding in your field, right? It's a little joke, by the way. If you're going to do leadership and you're going to be outstanding, you're going to separate yourself from the pack. It's just the way it is. There's an us and a them that's necessary anytime there's a leader and a follower. And that leadership, that solitude can be difficult to embrace. But in fact, it's there that we meet Christ. And I want to emphasize that. Our leadership as Christians is never an act of solitude. It might be an act where we experience a certain separation from the others, but it's in order for us to be more closely united with Jesus, to share in his life, to understand who he is. I just think, for example, you all know I'm a Catholic priest, right? So as a Catholic priest, I've taken a vow of celibacy unto death. And people say, oh my goodness, isn't that hard? Because you don't have the human companions to share the depths of your heart with. And you could say, well, sure. I mean, there's some challenges that can come there. But at the same time, it's something that's so precious because there is someone with whom the priest shares his heart. And that's the Lord. And what a wonderful treasure for the church to have this incredible gift where our leaders are literally known and received and loved only by the Lord as if it was, the champion of our hearts. I mean, how beautiful to think that. And what a gift I can witness to as a priest, to be able to be chaste and to be celibate as an act of intimacy with Jesus, as a sharing of myself with Christ and my heart with Christ. Well, of course, that's what it is for every priest, just like it was for St. Paul, for St. John the Baptist, like it was for so many, the Virgin Mary. The lack, the privation that comes from lack of human companionship at that level is actually an invitation into a companionship with Jesus. And that's exactly the point that I want you to see as a leader and all of these kinds of solitude that a leader has to face. Each one of them comes as an invitation to us to dig into our faith. And the more that you lead as a Christian, and you literally say, I'm going to face whatever is necessary in order to move this mission forward. I'm going to overcome my own innate tendencies to selfishness or brokenness in order to be the best leader that I possibly can be for my people. Well, the more you're going to need Jesus and find Jesus. This is what's so brilliant about embracing your vocation to be a leader. leader in business, a leader at home, a leader in society. It doesn't really matter where you are, but wherever you are as a leader, if you embrace that and say, Jesus wants me to assert myself in this way, well, the very first thing that's going to happen, of course, is that you're going to see the places where you don't assert yourself well. You know, you might be really good at planning things, but you might be really bad at taking the risk of actually executing them. You know, example of this is the type of person that says, like, you say, hey, should we do this? And they say, well, I think that we might want to try. And you say, what do you mean? I think you might want to try. Should we do this or not? And I mean, it's up to you. I think that maybe this could be a good thing, you know? And you're like, oh, you're hedging your bets here. So I'm going to take all the risk. And you're going to say, well, in the end, all I said was maybe I think that we should try, right? And they say, exactly, because nobody wants to be responsible for any kind of failure that could happen. Well, so if you're a leader, of course, you might be like that in different ways. Or you might be really good at engaging people and getting that community going, but then really bad at leading them anywhere substantial. Like you can win over an entire crowd and then they all look at you and then you say, I have no ideas as to what to do now. I'm just really good at winning you over. Well, of course, in order to be effective in leadership, you need to be good at the whole spectrum of things. You can't just do half of it. In other words, if you're really good at winning people over and having them follow you, you need to develop your ability to find a goal that's worthy of their pursuit. And that means digging deep inside and relying on Jesus to heal and asking Jesus for his strength for all those things that we're not good at. But it's not up to us to then say, I'm going to quit if I'm not good at it. That's the whole thing. If I'm in love with Christ and he's put me where I am so that I serve him there, then I'm obliged to push into areas where I might not be good. And of course, I'm not saying do that imprudently. I'm not saying to do that in a way that's going to cause you loss. But I am saying that it requires courage to follow Jesus. And it's a lot easier for a lot of us to just stay where we're comfortable and to never stretch into where we're uncomfortable. But I'm going to say at the same time, you're missing an opportunity because Jesus has probably put you in a spot where you have to face things that make you uncomfortable precisely so that you meet him as the sole savior of your life, who alone is going to be able to bring you the strength that you need to succeed. Why? So that then you can say, my success belongs to him. And my life isn't about me. Of my flesh, I am like a cracked vessel, just like St. Paul. But I carry a treasure inside. I have this and that thing I'm unable to do, this that makes me uncomfortable, an area of my life that I fail at repeatedly. In my leadership, I'm not good at this and that dimension of leadership. And I have to say, okay, do it anyway. Push into that anyway. I mean, with prudence, right? And in the right way and right time. But don't allow yourself just to say, therefore, I'm going to be ineffectual. All right? Christ has asked you, put you in a spot so that you grow there. He's made you a leader so that you grow as a leader, that you become sanctified, become a saint in and through your leadership. And you're like, well, how do I do that if, in fact, I'm constantly confronting the fact that I'm not good enough? And I was like, that's exactly it. At that moment where you stop and you say, I'm not good enough, I can do no more, I can do no better, that's the moment where Jesus can, in fact, stretch you by his glory, his grace, his life. And when people see the great things that you do, you can literally say, it was, yes, through me, but it was because of Jesus and thanks to his grace, and the glory be to him. And now, of course, it's amazing. So God could actually put us in this leadership. He could give you 6 children, and you say to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to make it through a day. And yet, if you try and you don't quit, and you push yourself through one way or the other, suddenly you make it through the day, and you can look back and say, he carried me there. And of course, he can do that in so many ways. Leadership is his gift to you, so that by your leadership, you find him and rely on him and become united with him. That's such a glorious and amazing thing to say, and even a better thing to live.
Would you like to hear more from Father Nathan? Join the St. John Leadership Network and receive a 2-minute glance at the gospel every Sunday morning right to your phone. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
So we're talking about leadership, and it's the solitude that we encounter. Remember how I'm approaching this right there. If you look at St. Thomas Aquinas, because of course he's just a genius, but he's so genius that it's hard to understand him. He's just like anybody else. It's like the more brilliant they are, the harder they are to follow, right? So, but like, let me break it down for you. Thomas Aquinas literally says that, anytime that we act, anytime that we do something voluntarily with the heart, well, we're going to have to do 5 things. We're going to have to dare a dream. We're going to have to dare a choice or a plan. We're going to have to dare a risk of starting it. And then we're going to have to dare the loss that comes necessarily by finishing it. Finally, we're going to have to dare to share it with other people. And each one of those 5 acts of daring is an act wherein, you assert yourself into a zone that makes you into a leader. Suddenly you separate yourself because you're saying, this is something that comes from me. This didn't exist before. This is my aspiration, right? My desire. I want this, right? It's crazy. It's like as soon as you say, I want this, people look at you and they're like, you don't have it yet. And it's impossible. And all the critics will assemble on like birds on a telephone wire, and they'll comment on you as you try vainly to make your path down the road. Because they'll all say it's impossible, this will never happen, who are you to dare such things, etc. There's a solitude that comes when you say, I want it. You've now put yourself out there. You've made yourself the object of criticism. A lot of people are scared of that. But on the other hand, you will never lead unless you assert that kind of courage. And a Christian is supposed to be a person of more desires than anyone else, because we literally have our heart in God. And when you're in hearts in God, you're inspired to do all kinds of wonderful things that might look crazy in the eyes of others. It's the same when you make a plan, when you make a choice. Suddenly people are like, wait a second, is that the right way? And you need to say, according to all my data and all the things that I have in front of me, having considered the many options, this is the one to go with. It's difficult to do that. And yet if you don't do it, if you don't enter into that solitude of people saying, you're going to sign off on that? And you're like, yes, I'm going to sign off on that. And that, I can't guarantee it's going to be successful, but I can say that amongst the many options, this was the best one. If you can do that, well, then you can proceed on and achieve great things. If you can't do that, well, then you'll never be able to really make an action that comes from your heart, because you won't be able to start. But the person who starts, that's another thing. Because now all of a sudden they got the ball, right? And they're running down the field, which means you can fumble the football, right? Anything can happen. If you're the ball carrier, in a football game, everyone's trying to tackle you. And that's why a lot of people are like, I'd rather not even try. Well, if you don't try, you won't succeed. So you need to try, right? But you see, in each of those 3 different areas, you've encountered this kind of solitude. And in each of those 3 solitudes, the solitude of the dreamer, the solitude of the planner, and the solitude of the person who does the deed, you in fact encounter Christ. He's there as the one who first told you, if you believe, nothing will be impossible for you. That's a direct quote from Jesus Christ. Nothing will be impossible for you if you believe. And again, he later on says, nothing is impossible for God. Well, it's like Christ literally saying, join me. Join me in wanting things that are not yet there, right? And then in the same way, making choices. He's the one who said, be like a general who, seeing an army coming his way, sits down and says, do I have what it takes to beat that army? And then he says, the great solution, the thing that you need to follow me is the cross, right? So don't think you can follow me without the cross. Make the choices that in fact flow from my holy cross, right? Make plans and choose your destiny to follow my commandments. Well, he gives all this guidance to say, I'm right with you in that plan. Don't be afraid. You might not know the right way. Your answer is not to find the right way. The answer is to give the best answer you can given what you know, right? It's like when he asked the apostles, who do people say that I am? And then he says, who do you say that I am? And notice he doesn't give them the answer ahead of time. Why? Because he's like, I want you to meet me in the fog. It's okay for you not to know. I'm right there with you. Rely on me. Count on my mercy. And then do the best you can. And of course, in the third way, he's there as well. In that solitude of the person who's got the ball moving forward. He was the one who was alone on the highways and byways. He was putting himself out there to save sinners long before you. And when you find yourself on that lonely road of a ministry, or the lonely road of parenthood, or lonely road of trying to do something good for others, you find yourself walking next to Jesus, who walked that lonesome road before you. And there's another kind here of solitude that was also a meeting point with Christ. And it's the solitude of the grind. And I love that image, right? Because it's actually from the book of the prophet Isaiah. In the book of the prophet Isaiah, we read about it. It says this. This is Isaiah 63, verse 3. You can turn your Bibles there. Isaiah 63, 3. I have trodden the winepress alone, and from the peoples no one was with me. I trod them in my anger and trampled them in my wrath. Their lifeblood spattered on my garments and stained all my apparel. For the day of vengeance was in my heart, and my year of redemption had come. I looked, but there was no one to help. I was appalled, but there was no one to uphold. So my own arm brought me salvation, and my wrath upheld me. All right, it's an amazing image. This image of this person in a wine press all by themselves to do the work of the harvest, right? Of smashing down the grapes so that the juice then could be made into wine. And that's exactly how we can feel so often. We look around and we say, why is it that I'm paying the price while other people just get to reap the rewards? You know, in order to get, I don't know, if you want to run a youth camp, I'm thinking of that right now because I'm at a youth camp, a marvelous youth camp, where teenagers get to meet Jesus and all this. And yet, do you realize how much work it is to keep up a youth camp? You know, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of money. And I'm just so touched. There's a priest here who dedicates himself and with all the labors of making this place run because he wants to see the kids get to meet Jesus. And it's so inspiring to me and to anyone who's around him, because you realize it's just nonstop work. And you say, my gosh, well, why aren't other people with him? Why does he have, and I don't know. Where are you all, right? You should get up here and help this priest. We should all be doing this work together. But the fact is, if you want to get something done, usually you end up having to do it yourself. It's just this sad unwritten law that is that the work that's necessary to reap the reward is oftentimes an object of fear. It's something that people don't want to do. Who wants to really work? Who wants to pay the price? Who wants to enter into that grind? Right? Very few. And it's obvious. Even Jesus said, the harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. And the word he uses for laborer, it means like a farmhand, a person who has to do heavy manual labor. And Jesus says, yeah, there are few of those who actually want to do the harvest of God because it's going to cost them something. It's going to cost them a lot. They're going to be alone in the heat of the sun to bear the burden of the day. And I think about that. I'm like, that's a real obstacle. And it's a real cross that many of you feel like a young mom. Everybody wants you to have children, but then when you're there, you're like, now I have to take care of these kids. And it's all fun and games until there's one that's really difficult. And then it's really, really hard. Our mothers are just heroes, in this world doing this. Single parents. And you're looking at 18 years now that you're going to be putting in of effort to rear these children and to bring them up, right? And you're looking around for someone to help you, but no one really can. You're in the solitude of the grind. And there you can meet Christ. He is there waiting for us. We just need to find him. And that's what I want to talk to you about.
Would you like to start your Thursday mornings with a scriptural leadership lesson? Join the St. John Leadership Network, where Father Nathan hosts a 30-minute call at 6:30 a.m. in all 4 U.S. time zones. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
Anybody who's tried to push forward knows how hard it is to feel like you're alone when you're losing something. Right? I mean, like I think about moms, for example. I love singing about motherhood because they're the unsung heroes of our world, and so I just want to sing about them for a second, right? I think a mom is a lot like a candle. The beauty of the light that comes from a woman who has decided to love others more than herself is mesmerizing. We all want to gather around a mother because they emit this kind of light, this grace, this beauty, right? That it fills the house. I mean, if mom is smiling upon us and mom is loving us, then everything will be well in the world. That's how you feel. You just feel safe. You feel good. Right? It's like that candle is burning brightly. And yet, why is the candle burning? Because it's literally consuming itself in the gift. The beauty of the light of the flame of love that burns in the heart of a mom or of a dad, it comes because it's the self-sacrifice that's involved. The mother or the father giving themselves, that's what makes the flame. But yet, the more you give yourself, well, the more that you're consumed. And we go all the way to our old age till we literally can't give any more. And then we come to our eternal reward, having been spent, literally, at the service of those whom we love. And it's a beautiful image, right? It's very powerful. But it's not a lot of fun when you're doing it. What keeps you going when you're in the grind? And you say to yourself, if I'm going to make this youth camp work, then I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and do the toilets myself and make the meals, etc. I mean, and the stories of the saints abound where saints did just that. They stepped into the breach that everybody else was leaving wide open, and they filled it at the expense of their life. And I want to emphasize this. That is the Christian position. A Christian is supposed to love other people more than themselves. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's for sure. Well, we need to be able, as St. John says, to lay our lives down for our brothers. Right? It sounds beautiful, but what if, in fact, we get to do it? We get to do it in our marriages. We get to do it in our businesses. We get to do it anywhere we lead. Because what we're going to find is that in order to get the thing done and be really successful, you're going to pay a price that few people are willing to pay. You find yourself up late at night and you're doing this project. I remember one time listening to a CEO talk about this moment where they had to get this form filled out for the IRS. It had to be done by this certain time, or else the business would be penalized or there'd be some sort of dramatic consequence. And so they found themselves all alone. It was like 3 a.m, grinding at 18-hour day to do this report. And they were thought to themselves, I'm killing myself, literally. They were under so much pressure. And then they started thinking about all of the people that worked for them. And their faces, their family situations, their names came in front of them. And without these people even realizing it, there was their boss. And all these people would lose their job if he wasn't able to do this form and get this thing filled in time. And this person shared with me the emotions of that moment, and how by thinking of them, she was able to find that deeper energy to do what it took, and literally give her energy, her time, her stress to make it happen because they depended upon her. I think it's a wonderful story, right? And that's exactly what we all have to do. There's something more important on the other end of your sacrifice than your pain. If you are in touch with something more important, more compelling, more driving, more attractive, more powerful than your pain, then you'll be able to push through that solitude, because you're going to find there where you're most alone, in that difficult challenge, the presence of Jesus, who's carrying his cross all by himself and who's hanging upon the wood of the cross alone. And he's sharing with you in a real way the fact that true love looks like sacrifice. And to be able to tell your people that you're in this with your own, skin in the game, and that you're putting your own time, your own energy, your own efforts into this, not just to take from the company, but to build a company for them, to build a business for them. I mean, that's what Christ's love looks like. And how profound to find that you're never alone. When you find yourself doing the dishes after the date night, you run a date night for your church, and then the priest leaves and you're sitting there doing the dishes at 12 o'clock, and you've got to get up early to go back into work the next day, and you say, why am I the only one? You can turn behind you and find our Lord right there with you, saying, you're the only one because I was the only one. Because in the end, anyone who does anything has to pay the price for the glory. And you've been given that grace to be able to pay the price so that other people can live a beautiful, quiet, devout life. What a gift. And so why is it a gift? It's a gift because when we lead like that, then our love becomes real. And if we don't lead like that, there's a question to whether or not we love at all. Love is proven by pain. It's not the only way to prove love, but it's definitely a Christian way, right? Show me what you've given me. Isn't it amazing that you see a mom who's like, I'll tell you what I gave you. Every day of my life I gave you, right? Married spouses, that wedding ring that I carried to my tomb, I carry there as my trophy. This I have achieved in my life. I was faithful to you until death. It's an incredible grace. Because when we get to be able to be the love that we wish we had, well, what more is there to achieve in life? And this is the gift of Christian leadership, and a gift of finding Jesus with you in the grind.
Dare great things for Christ.
Share your feedback with Father Nathan. Send us an email at communications@stjohninstitute.org. That's communications@stjohninstitute.org. And visit www.stjohninstitute.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive updates from Father Nathan.